and welcome to Dojo Live this Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. It's an easy date to remember because it is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day. You know, here in Mexico where we're located, it's actually the day of love and friendship. It's not just romantic, so we're going to celebrate friends as well. Here co-hosting along with me is my good friend, America Guerrero.
Hey everybody! We also say Feliz Dia de los Enamorados. That is like the lovers or something.
All right. And we've got a new friend, a great guest that we're excited to speak with today. He is Andrej Safundzic, who is the CEO and co-founder of Lumos. Andrej, thank you so much for joining us on Dojo Live.
Hello, friends.
Hello. You know, we're really excited to speak with you because we're going to be learning how to manage, and I think you created this word, I loved it, the APPocalyse, right? And really showing organizations how they can improve their app usage, entitlements, spending. So this is for the CISOs out there, the IT leaders, I'm guessing a really great conversation for them. And of course, anyone who wants to get access to their SaaS easier, right? But before we get into that topic, we'd love to get to know your story, Andrej, a bit more. Who are you? What's your passion? And what's led up to co-founding Lumos?
Yes. So here's the story. My story is I have two arcs, I would say, in my life. One arc is the screw it, just do it arc, right? And the other arc is how to tell, stories through the technology that we built. All right. So it all started honestly in college. So I'm the oldest of five immigrants from Croatia and Germany. There was a kind of a war in Croatia in the 90s. So before that, my parents emigrated to Germany, and it was always like when I started college, I was like, what is the most impactful story I can tell? And I had a friend in Uganda, and he said like youth unemployment is 70% here, right? So I just said screw it, just do it. I booked a ticket, flew down there. Right, my mom didn't even know at that time, so she would have killed me. And so we built two social organizations. They're still out there. One is called Start Hub Africa, and basically what we build is we build like an entrepreneurship ecosystem for universities where students build their own companies, and then after graduating, they could kind of lead them and actually kind of create livelihoods and jobs. Then I was like, man, this was exciting. But what's the next screw it, just do it story, right? How can I tell a story through technology in an even grander way? And I was like, man, government. When I grew up, government gave me everything. They gave me free education, free healthcare, free childcare benefits. I was like, but the government, no technologists. I studied computer science at Technical University of Munich, Harvard, and Stanford, and none of my peers want to work for the government, right? And I was like, why? There's so much impact in the government. And so I said, screw it, just do it. I sent, no joke, the federal chief of staff of Germany an email and said, trust me, I'm going to bring the 10 most clever technologists into the government and we'll build, for you instead of you outsourcing to, Accenture. Anyways, long story short, we built that company. We then eventually got acquired as the first startup ever to be acquired by the German White House.
So you actually did it.
Yeah, it's really just do it, and I'll come to an end in a sec. And so we basically, the mission of it's called Digital Service for Germany is to create tech for the public good and make this sexy and actually make it meaningful and impactful through technology, right? So we're now like part of the government, 150 to 200 people. And I was like, okay, how can I do this in the private sector? And especially with the apocalypse, what that basically means is, 2020 happened, COVID happened, everyone went to the cloud even more so, right? Even the most, mature and old school companies suddenly used Zoom, suddenly used, Figma, Asana, and all those kind of tools. So it was literally like on average, a company is using 700 apps. What that meant is that the IT
700.
Okay. Like think about, your iPhone, you have like probably like 50 apps on your iPhone. A company has 12 times as many, and that's really hard to manage. And so anyways, I was like, man, the story of the IT persona changed completely. They're now just getting tickets and, need to do like a little bit of, support work, but honestly, they used to be an infrastructure department. that actually set up infrastructure for other departments to build on top of. So why we started Lumos is basically to augment the story of IT as it was pre-COVID to a true infrastructure department. And so that's the story of Lumos. And what we're doing right now is we're helping kind of companies manage their applications at scale.
I absolutely love that. As part of this ability to manage applications, maybe we should juxtapose these two IT stories that you were talking about, right? Each one with their curve. And is this a before and now, or is this a now and the way that you see that it should be?
So here there are 3 stages of software, and let me maybe guide you through those, and let me tell you how IT changed throughout. The first one is we digitized the office, right? The office is where ideas are created, right? And before that, we scribbled on paper, right? First, we digitized the office. What that happened, SAP came out, Oracle came out, Office came out. Those are all on-prem applications, right? But it was at least on our laptop and digitized. IT's role in that time was mostly about creating the infrastructure, the data centers, and deploying that software so that other people could use it. So they were like a true kind of core department to kind of enable other people to digitize their processes. Now, in the there was 1990s and 2000s. Then next was the consumerization of enterprise. That's when Notion and Asana and Figma and Zoom and all those apps came out, right? And basically what that means is we moved from single player mode to multiplayer mode. For example, in Figma, I can collaborate. I don't need to send Photoshop files that say the final, right?
Yeah.
That was the second stage, basically the multiplayer mode. IT's job changed there now. Why? Because I don't need IT anymore. I need IT to set up SAP. I don't need IT anymore to set up Figma. I can do this myself, right? So in that era, IT slowly became more and more of a support function, right? Hey, give me access to this. Hey, add this to SSO, etc. Now, something is changing. We're moving into an era of autonomous software. GitHub Copilot, Grammarly, and many other applications are now AI enhanced or are fully run by AI. There are like new software out there that literally kind of reports to customer support tickets using AI, right? So we're changing completely into a way where, similar to like what happened with cars, where suddenly robots are manufacturing cars and humans are overseeing those robots. That is now happening in the next 15 years in the software environment. We are moving into the autonomous software section. Now, that changes it completely for IT again, right? So now IT actually needs to build the right infrastructure for all that software to interact with each other, for different types of departments to oversee certain pieces of that software. So IT has the chance again to become an infrastructure department. So those are the kind of shifts. I can tell later how Lumos plays into that, but this is the next shift that I'm seeing in the next kind of 10 years and how IT plays into it.
I do see the analogy of the IT infrastructure being like God, and then we, as with our free will, making a mess with the apps that we have in a business and creating this apocalypse. So thank you for explaining it like that.
I love it. Just follow these 10 commandments and everything will be just fine. I promise. Yeah. I love it. So let's speak to Lumos. That's exactly what I'd like to understand, is how you're helping these organizations improve this usage, entitlement, spending, maybe even who your users are, who within the organizations, IT, but who specifically can benefit from this.
Now here's the problem right now. Even though different people can just set up their own applications, here are the different problems. Number one, 30% of software spend is unused. You get access to an app, you use it once or twice, you probably know this from your iPhone. You probably sign up for some subscription and you forgot about it, and then you get it added on your credit card, and suddenly you look at your credit card and say, man, I spent like $80 on this.
Yeah, the automatic renewal a year later, and you're like, damn it, exactly. I didn't even use this all year, and now I paid for another one.
Exactly. Now think about a company that has 2,000 employees or 5,000 employees, and each employee has 3-4 subscriptions that are just running and they're not using. A subscription on average costs $30 a month. That's $300 a year, roughly, times 3 applications. That's $1,000 lost per employee, times 2,000. That's like in the millions, right? So it really scales. So that's one problem, spend. The other problem we all know, when you need access to a software, because software is, if you think about it, imagine suddenly we don't have StreamYard, we don't have Notion, we don't have Slack. Those are our Iron Man suits, right? We can't create without our applications. Problem though is, you probably know it, if you work in a bigger company, you need access to a new database, or you need access to some new Salesforce project or permission. It takes 24 to 48 hours to get access to it. You're waiting.
Yeah.
Now, that's the second problem, is like, even though we're overspending on software, it takes so long to get access to it, right? And so basically Lumos tries to solve, and those are the same problem, just two different sides of a coin. You're overspending because it takes so long to get access, so you don't want to lose it, right? You're saying like, oh, I don't want to lose this access because it's going to take me 48 hours to again get it. Now, what Lumos is basically doing is the same thing as your iPhone App Store, right? You go to the iPhone App Store, you click on Netflix, and you just get it. And you then click on subscriptions, and you cancel Netflix, and it's canceled, right? What Lumos does is you have your App Store. You can click on, I need Salesforce, I need this project. We handle the approvals, we give it to you. And once we detect that you don't use it that you're not using it anymore, we remove that access.
And how do you detect that if you see that there is no activity? Is that
So
how it works?
yes, exactly. We detect, we have API connections into those applications, and can see, if a person, took some action in the application.
This is
All right.
something that happened to Kim and I. We were looking for an app, and a specific app. There was like amount of time researching that app because we were looking for different kind of options, but we wanted one option, right? So suddenly we knew that there was a person who was already using that app, and we didn't know that. So is there a way that you can find? I don't know. I'm thinking that I'm an employee and I'm looking for an app with a specific
Function.
functions, yeah.
Mhm.
And then you write something like, "Hey, I would like a sales platform that could help me to do blah 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 blah," and then we'll give you like the description of the apps that are available in the company.
Yes. So
Nice.
about this, similar to an app store, right? On your iPhone, you can even on the app store on your iPhone, you sometimes don't know like, what is the app actually called? You say, I need a healthcare app, right? Or maybe I need a cooking app. You even more specific, and then 5 cookbook apps show up, right? So it's that intelligent. So that's where also AI comes into place at Lumos, right? The future of Lumos is actually quite interesting. Initially, you'll have co-pilots. They're going to tell you like, okay, as you said, here's your whiteboarding app that you need for your next project. Or a co-pilot will say, hey, those 20 people haven't used it for 90 days. Remove the access. I believe that the future, though, will be fully autonomous, where an agent will be able to say, America actually just started a project with sales. She needs access to Salesforce, or even without you knowing, you had access to it, right? So agents will be those people that will give access and remove access to software to both, increase security, decrease spend, but at the same time, increase productivity and give you the Iron Man suits that you need to get stuff done.
Is there also this like, does this exist, or is this on your roadmap, like an A/B test? Like, let's do a face-off. Half of us are gonna use Salesforce, half of us will use HubSpot, or I don't know what else is out there, right? But we found that this worked great. We love it. This one sucks. This is more expensive. And kind of, rather than just, going online and seeing some regurgitated, columns of comparison that somebody else out there did for you, you as a company could live it and then make a decision.
Yeah. So what we do is, so usually you can only make decisions what software you keep and not at renewal. So let's assume you use Monday.com and Asana. Those are actually good examples. Those are project management tools. Or Asana and Jira. Those are maybe more well known. So you imagine you use Asana and Jira. Imagine engineering bought Jira and product management bought Asana, right? So when a renewal happens, we also have a renewal calendar. So we know when all your software is renewing, because we ingest all your contracts. We have access to your contract database, and we ingest all your contracts into Lumos. So we actually know how much you're paying and when it's renewing. Then we say Asana is renewing in 3 months. Okay. Then we show you like, okay, those are duplicate apps, of Asana. Oh, you're using Monday.com. Then we can go a step deeper. We can say those departments are using Asana. Those departments are using Monday. Let's come together and have a conversation on what actually, should we consolidate it? What should we keep it separate? What should we do? So Lumos kind of gives you the data and the workflows to have those conversations and make the right decisions on the apps that you want to have in your company.
Beautiful. And this is also in terms of like the apps that already exist. Who's the decision maker in this? Like, is it the users, or is this going to depend from organization to organization? Like, I have the ability to do my own budget and just sign on up, or
yes, that's exactly true. Like every team has their own budgets, but that's why we need infrastructure, right? It's similar. Think about engineering. Imagine you have different. Imagine you are what is a good application. Imagine you are the product teams at Salesforce, right? You have a product team that builds the Salesforce Sales Cloud. You have a product team that builds the Marketing Cloud. You have a team that builds the Service Cloud. So they're different product teams. Each of those teams, and I'll then put back the analogy to Lumos. Each of those teams is supported by developer operations. So they all work on the same infrastructure. They all use, GitHub. They all kind of deploy the application the same way. Even though they kind of serve different use cases, they're all supported by the same infrastructure in a similar way. And they also use their own, processes and et cetera. So they are like autonomous a little bit. Similar way, a company, marketing has the budget and buys the marketing apps. Salesforce has the budget, buys the sales apps, right? But there's certain processes that are the same. Renewal, everyone needs to do a renewal. Everyone needs to cut down on licenses. Everyone needs to negotiate. Everyone needs to give their employees access to software, right? Once you buy, you need to give them access, right? So the renewals, the license management, the access creation and deletion, offboarding, right, is something that each of those teams, even though they're independent, needs to do. And so that's where IT cannot be a support function anymore. They need to build the infrastructure that lets all those teams manage their applications in the most efficient way, right? And people would love that. Imagine, a new head of sales buys a new application, and they're like, "Wow, I need to make use of it." Of course, they want support, to kind of distribute it. Or let's say marketing. It's November, budget is running short. They have 2 more months. Like, fuck, I wanna, release this new campaign. Imagine they can go to a dashboard, which is Lumos, and see, oh, I have those duplicate apps, so I have those unused licenses. Let me cut those to free up budget, to use for a different resource. And that's kind of the change that we're trying to drive when it comes to application management.
You mentioned change, and I'm thinking of this Gen AI era, and I'm guessing that out there are so many employees that are looking for Gen AI tools that could help them to make their lives easier, right? So I know that out there are some Gen AI tools that are not, in terms of privacy, secure or recommendable, and that is something that you don't think about it if you don't have like technical knowledge, but the IT team, they know about that, right? So
Exactly.
is there a way to recommend these employees that no, you shouldn't download that application, or you shouldn't, that kind of recommendations?
blacklist, a blacklist.
Exactly. So here's what we can already do, and here's something that's on our roadmap. What we can already do is we can detect when a person signed up for an application that is not an approved application. So imagine you sign up for application X, right? And it's unapproved. Or maybe it's not unapproved, but people don't know about it. It's a new application. We can send out alerting to security and IT and say like, hey, 10 people recently signed up for application X. You unapproved it. make sure you take action. Or, hey, 10 people sign up for this application, you don't know about it, take a look at it. There's some momentum going on. That's already possible. What we're implementing is actually when a person wants to buy. So right now, what Lumos manages is every app that you already purchased, right? Lumos can help you give licenses to those. Lumos wants to extend this so that you can also purchase new apps through Lumos, right? So imagine you say, like, I want to kind of, get access to this Gen AI app. Then we could automatically, recommend people, oh, actually, this application you should use instead because this is, insecure out of those 3 reasons. So, that's something that's coming up. Right now, we're just alerting, but we want to kind of make it preventative moving forward.
Preventing. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I'm curious. We're actually right in the middle of a series on Dojo Live with Provision Partners, and this is about implementing AI more specifically for the hospitality industry. But I think a lot of what we're pulling out of this series applies in a lot of places. And what came up really early in the series was this idea of, AI being scary, or even seeing it as a threat, right? That it's going to replace my job. And I feel that there might be this, what's the word? Not an idiosyncrasy, that's not the right word, but this, where on one hand, IT guys or security guys, they're tech lovers, right? They want to embrace what's out there. And then on the other hand, they're like, is there this fear that, like, geez, the more I do this, the more I automate this, what purpose do I have? What is this going to take over my job?
Oh, yes. I mean,
so how to speak to this fear that maybe the CISOs or the IT guys have? Like, what do you go up against and say, it sounds great, but I'm not using Lumos because I want job security?
I mean, my dad is a mechanic, right? So imagine I tell and he's now using CNC machines. Imagine I told him back in the days, my dad, by the way, the thing that you're creating, you need to do with hammer and screws, right? Instead of, operating a machine to create that, right? IT folks don't want to resolve support tickets, right? Security folks don't want to get security alerts and look it up and, do that's meaningful work, but like, it's like similar to like
tedious
work. Like it's similar to like, why do robots in car manufacturing, in car manufacturing, in car manufacturing actually pick up the heavy boxes and do the tedious work? Because it's kind of repetitive, and automation can do that. Now, what do humans do? There are more there are more people employed in the car industry than ever before, even though it's highly automated, because people become more service or infrastructure related. They oversee the robots, right? They repair them. They think about strategy. In the same way, IT and security will move away from being the support function, right, and become this infrastructure function. So they should be excited, saying like, bring all the Gen AI stuff to me, because I finally can do kind of great work. In fact, we've seen a big change in IT and security from IT analysts and security analysts to IT engineers and security engineers. There are less and less analysts and more engineers. Why? Because analyst work is more and more automated using machines, and engineering work, like configuring those systems, is becoming more and more important. So that's the change. We're going to see people become more and more engineers or strategists, or in that area, and less analysts and doing the tedious work.
Yeah, I can see that. My husband, he's a digital architect, but he had IT functions, resolving like tickets and that kind of stuff, and he didn't have enough time to take care of the engineering projects that what they were like needed that back then. But I do see how his life could be simpler with this kind of technology. How big do you recommend companies could use Lumos? I mean, if you are the startup who has like I don't know, 20 employees, do you see that there is going to be a need with the infrastructure sooner than later? Or would you recommend them to start with Lumos, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that managing applications becomes hard at scale, right? So usually when we see kind of companies really needing to automate stuff is when they reach 200 people, right? Of course, helping people that are smaller, 100%, but usually we see like companies above 200 where it really starts becoming gnarly. And then when it gets over 1,000, it becomes impossible to manage. So you need to start at 200 to then prevent issues that come up when you're at 1,000. Usually, when you're 20 people, you need often access, let's say, to database, but your security requirements are less, cost is kind of, smaller scale. So usually we see like 200 people plus becoming, really feeling the pain.
Yeah, the threshold. We're actually coming to the final few minutes of our show today, and I've noticed that there's this commonality, this word that's come up quite a bit, and that's change. And another word is story. And so I'd like to come back to you, Andrej, as an individual, your story, the change that you've experienced, and sort of, this passion about writing stories and what that means in terms of being an entrepreneur, which you've done, I guess, at least 3 times, right? What might you share with the audience about being able to write that story, and any words of wisdom connected to that?
So if you're an entrepreneur or not, what's most important, I feel like, how I view work is, I love books, right? And the best thing, like, think about Frodo, right? Why do we get excited about Lord of the Rings? Is of course of the world building, but also about Frodo. Like this kind of, a little awkward person, we see them grow through the friends, right? Similar way what technology does, so why you build companies or why you work for companies is you take a piece of technology to impact a persona and let them go through their hero's journey, right? Everything is a hero's journey, right? So how I think about things is like, how can I build my company around the hero's journey arc? So what is my persona I'm trying to impact? And what is their, Captain America Frodo story over the course of the next 5 years, right? And I think they're great examples of that. For example, Gainsight, many people know this company. Before there was customer support, there was no customer success. That's a new function. And suddenly customer support, which is like, support, responding to support tickets, became customer success. So additionally, there was customer success that was more relationship driven to kind of help companies achieve more success. That was what Gainsight introduced. Or Figma, before there was a graphic or UX designer, someone that kind of, build UIs and send it to engineering. Now they're a product designer. Now they're real architects, right? Because with Figma, they can involve everyone in the planning process.
It's
So
business
I love
now. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, it's a business priority. So I really love those stories of the companies that took a persona and let them actually, new job titles were formed because of those companies, right? And so the Lumos job title that we are kind of creating is, from being an IT analyst, you become a tech ops engineer. DevOps, tech ops, right? The DevOps is for engineering, tech ops is for the whole company. So the new persona that we create, the new job title that we hopefully create in the next 3-4 years is the tech ops engineer. So my question to all of you is, like, as you kind of, creating your own companies, working for amazing, companies, what is the hero's journey that you are creating, and what change will that drive in people's actual jobs in 2-3 years from now?
I love it. My ears are going to be wide open for the tech ops engineer. Hopefully in a few years down the road, we're going to see that, right? In job opportunity forums, and this is who I am, and this is what I want to be, and this is the people that we're looking for. I love that. I love your vision. Andrej, I wish you and Lumos nothing but success as you move forward in this 2024. And of course, you're welcome back on the show anytime.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you,
Thank
America.
you. Thank you for joining us. Stick around just a minute as we go off air. But before we do, I would like to remind the audience that we've got 2 shows coming up next week. We will not be on air tomorrow, but we will start on Wednesday, the 21st, with Tuzmo. That's going to be with their founder and CEO, Ron Assad. I do not have the topic of conversation yet, but as always, it's guaranteed to be a good one. And then looping back to what I mentioned earlier today, it's going to be part 4 of the 5-part series with Provision Partners, this time talking about the testing, right, and reiteration that's important with the AI process. So catch that on Thursday. Thank you again, Andrej. Thank you, America, as always. And have a great week, everyone.